And welcome to our Gratitude Sunday. This is the time of Thanksgiving, a time when we reflect on the bounty of the year that we have been blessed with, and the time that we can share with one another the fellowship of our love and our spirit, so that all can feel the blessings of God's love. Announcements. Would you like to give us a couple of announcements, Kimberly?
Sure. Well, first off, the pictures on the table are things that we've taken recently.
Thank you.
And I just thought I would print them off and put them out there, and you're welcome, please. I don't want to take you home with me, so feel free to just take those with you. And you may have to go from table to table to find yourself. Remind me.
The postal service.
Oh, my elves will be employed very soon.
Yay, the elves are here.
And the Center for Universal Oneness Post Office will open up for Christmas. So I know you'll want to get your Christmas cards out to all your friends. And there will be no postage, of course. Just bring them. We will sort them and
it will be 55 cents in January.
Will that be starting next week?
it might be starting next week. If you bring them, we'll start it. I can find the mailbox.
Okay.
You want me to do the Northland Christmas Store?
Sure.
Northland Christmas Store is soon. Patrick Hanley is he's our new outreach guy. So you can give him all your ideas too. And he's going to set up a date and let me know when that is, so. And we'll be collecting something for them, as well as
Okay. Yes,
And then
Barb?
just after the service, unless you're kind of helping organize things, just sit for a minute till we get it all ready, and we'll give you a heads up when you can, like, get
That's
around.
right.
Get our place.
Wait for you.
And finally, for those of you who have not seen the email that I set out, the new board of directors met this week and elected new officers. And I continue as president.
Yay.
Mark Ballard is vice. Ruth Ann is our new secretary. And Rayma is our treasurer. And Harry Whitey is our coordinator of communications. And Gwen Cook is policies and procedures. I don't see Gwen here today. And then Patrick Hanley is going to be taking over outreach. So we're looking forward to a successful year. We have a number of things on our plate to address, and information will be forthcoming as it develops. Please turn off your cell phones, and we'll start the service. We ring the bowl in universal oneness and feel the vibration that unites in love and peace. Our lighted candle symbolizes the Christ light presence in all of us. Well, you know who I am, and I've already made my comments about this being Gratitude Sunday, so I'm going to skip that part. We do have luncheon this afternoon. I'm sure all of you are anticipating that. I tried my best to have hot dogs, but we ended up with turkeys.
Oh, darn.
Oh, darn.
And as Barb mentioned, because we have things to organize and so forth, if you're not working in the kitchen, please remain seated after the service until they're ready for the parade to begin. Okay. Will you join with me in reading the mission statement? The Center for Universal Oneness is a place where those who want support on their spiritual journey may join with others for mutual encouragement, inspiration, and guidance. The center draws on those practices based in new thought and metaphysical approaches. The higher Christ consciousness provides the foundation. We strive to live in the oneness of love. And our vision statement? Extending into the world faith, love, peace, and joy. We'll have our opening prayer, Barb.
Good morning, all. Good morning. If you would join me in prayer, please. Father, Mother, God, we do give thanks for all the blessings that we have received, all the blessings to come, because we know there are multiple blessings for each and every one of us. We hold that in our thoughts, in our actions, in our prayers, knowing that we are all a child of God. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Well, we're in for a real treat because we have one of our most favorite people with us today, Ben Neal. We know Ben to be a very talented musician. We know that he is an inspirational speaker. And he's just an all-around good guy. Yeah. So let's welcome Ben.
For my opening song, I think it's appropriate for Gratitude Sunday. It's a little chant by Karen Drucker. And it's real easy. I'm going to sing a line and you're going to sing it back to me, okay? Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Now you're done. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful day. This beautiful, beautiful day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing day. This healing day. Look around and say, thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friends. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful day. This beautiful day. This beautiful day. One more time. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing day. This healing day. This healing day. Switch positions here.
Do that.
Check, check, check. Everybody hear me out there okay? Okay. All right. So, I'm just so happy to be here on Gratitude Sunday. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. Second only to Christmas, really. I'm lucky enough to have a big family that all lives close enough together that we can gather a couple of times a year, and Thanksgiving is one of those times. I remember as a kid, my Uncle Mike, he was my great uncle actually, but my Uncle Mike would always say grace before the meal. And he was always so careful, so conscientious to mention stray animals. He would always pray for the homeless. He gave these, really heartfelt prayers that, and I'm a kid, they would just seem to go on and on and on. And I was like, come on, Uncle Mike, wrap it up. I want to dig in here. I never could have imagined that I would one day be the one saying grace before meals when my family gathered for Thanksgiving. But it's funny how things happen. My Uncle Mike passed away, and I grew up and eventually got a job at Silent Unity for 4 years where I would, say prayers for a living. So since I'm a professional prayer, I inherited the job, and now I'm the one saying these long-winded prayers for the strays and the homeless and victims of war and poverty around the world, and I always think about my Uncle Mike. But why do we have Thanksgiving? Have you ever asked yourself that? Why is it important for us to say thank you, to express our gratitude? Where does that come from? Because like many things in life, I think it's equally important, it's not just what we do, it's how we do it, and it's why we do it. So where does this thank you come from? Is it a moral place of coming from fear, like I should do this, I'm supposed to do this, God expects it, oh, thank you, Lord, for the food, and it's just like a duty that we're performing? Or is it something more pure and meaningful than that? Because I don't know about you, but I don't think that the infinite creator, the spirit that permeates every atom in the universe, really needs our recognition or our thanks or praise. I don't think it's expected or demanded. I think that gratitude is important for us. It's for our own good. There's a man named Robert Emmons who's a professor at UC Davis, and he specializes in psychology and religious studies and a lot of progressive foo-foo stuff like that. But he's done a lot of research on gratitude and its effects on the mind and body. And his findings indicate that practicing gratitude, and what that means, I think, is keeping a gratitude journal. So taking time every day to reflect on what you have to be grateful for, and maybe just for a few minutes. But the people who put this practice to work in their lives got noticeably stronger immune systems. They were less bothered by aches and pains. Their blood pressure was lower. They tended to exercise more and eat better, take better care of their health. They would sleep longer, sleep better, and feel more rested upon waking. They were more resistant to stress and anxiety. Psychologically, they were shown to have a resistance to toxic emotions, a better resistance to toxic emotions like envy, jealousy, anger, etc. Higher levels of positive emotions. They were generally just more happy. They were more alert, alive, awake, enthusiastic. They just had a more optimistic outlook on life. And there were social benefits too. They were generally more outgoing, more forgiving, more helpful, generous, and compassionate. And they felt less lonely and isolated. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But I would go even farther than Mr. Emmons, as gratitude seems to be good for the mind, good for the body, good for our relationships. I think it's good for the soul. I think gratitude has a tremendous spiritual dimension, though that may be harder to measure and quantify. But here's a few ways I think that gratitude can change our spiritual lives. For one thing, gratitude keeps us in a healthy relationship to our own desires. The Buddha taught that desire is the root of all suffering, but that's tricky. If you get into this place of resisting and fighting your own desires, then you're just caught in a whole nother trap. Gratitude is a way that we can be detached from our desires. Okay, so we're not stuck in this consciousness of greed and entitlement and expecting things to go our way, but it keeps us humble and open to the good that life has to offer. We're able to savor the little joys that come our way. I think gratitude helps keep us in the now, in the present moment. Not worrying about the future, not regretting the past. The practice of gratitude challenges us every day to look at what we have to be grateful for now, to look for the opportunities that are in front of me now, to look for the blessing in this moment. And the practice goes as deep as you want it to go. You can look for the blessing, look for the gift in even life's challenges and in our failures, in our hurts. For instance, even the most unhealthy relationship will at least teach us, how to do better next time. What is it that I want? And it should, right? What is it that I want, and what do I want to avoid? A car accident can go a long way to teach you to be a more cautious driver. This kind of reminds me of a Zen story about a farmer whose horse ran away one day. And, all of his neighbors were saying to him, that's terrible, that's bad luck. And he said, we'll see. His son was out looking for the horse, and he found him, and there were also 2 wild horses there that he was able to bring back to the farm as well. And the neighbors said, "Oh, what luck, what good fortune." The farmer said, maybe. His son was trying to tame one of the wild horses, and it bucked and threw him off and broke his leg. And the neighbors came to offer their condolences. "Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry that happened. That's bad luck." He said, "Well, time will tell." And then the army came around recruiting, and they passed by the son because of his broken leg. Once again, the neighbors said, "What a lucky break." And he said, "Well, we'll see." Just goes to show that we never know exactly what the big picture is. Sometimes we only see the blessing of a thing in retrospect. And sometimes what seems bad contains the greatest gift of all. Gratitude can help us to find that seed, that blessing in whatever experience there is. But most of all, I think gratitude shifts our vibration. It shifts our state of consciousness. It is, the title of my talk today is Gratitude, a Gateway to God. Gratitude is a doorway, a gateway to an experience of the divine. Because it's literally one of the frequencies where we tune into the universal creative energy. Whether you call it God or spirit, or life, Shakti, gratitude can tune us in to that divine vibration that's always there. When we don't feel it, it's because we're out of sync. We're out of tune. We're not vibrating harmoniously with that frequency. Gratitude can help us get back in tune. And as we know in unity, our state of consciousness tremendously affects how we experience the world how we engage with other people. There's a metaphor that I've used before that I think illustrates how important this concept is. Imagine you live in the perfect city. It's not too big, it's not too small. There's lots of public transportation, so the traffic is not bad. There's lots of entertainment, concerts, thriving art scene. There's lots of parks and green spaces. It's right on the water. Everything about this city is just perfect. Except every day on your way to work, you have to drive down this street that is just falling apart. And every day, bang, you go over this pothole that just jars your whole car. And it just, it's like every day on your way to work, you're driving over this pothole. Now, it's really easy to let that pothole throw you off your game. And the whole rest of the day, you're kind of just, you're cursing and you're angry. And why didn't the city fix that? I pay my taxes. They need to repave that road, and it's about time. It's been too long. And this whole wonderful, blessed city that you live in can become one big festering pothole if you let it. Recently, I love Chevys, and I have this old Chevy truck that's 30 years old, but it's been immaculately cared for. It's in wonderful condition. And the other day I was walking by and I noticed this tiny little hairline crack in the paint and a tiny little blossom of rust starting under there. The first touch of rust. And any of you truck guys know that that is your worst enemy in a truck. They will rust away on you. And so it's, I notice this thing that happens in my conscience. I see this spot of rust, and suddenly everything about this truck that I love so much, it just becomes, I just look at this truck and I see rust. I'm just seeing this great big rusting heap now because of this tiny little hairline thing. Now, of course, this is just a fleeting thought, and I let it go, and I just move on, and I'm grateful for all of the things that I love about this machine. But there's something to that. The mind has a tendency to go there, to focus on what's wrong, to focus on what's lacking, to focus on what's broken and needs to be fixed. We don't tend to just sit around dwelling in a state of gratitude naturally. Do you? Is it just me? Yeah. I think it's hardwired. It's a survival instinct. For millions and millions of years, it was very important for us to be alert and attuned to the slightest danger. Was necessary. But we've come a long way. And I don't think it's serving us anymore to focus always and only on what's wrong. Gratitude is a way for us to shift that state of mind, to get out of the pothole and get out into the big, beautiful world with all of the beauty that it has to offer. Whenever I think about gratitude, I think about a fellow named Brother David Steindl-Rast. Anyone heard that name before? He is a Catholic monk in the tradition of folks like Thomas Merton, who study Buddhism and Hinduism and Sufism and are sort of interfaith speakers and thinkers, theologians. He is known especially for his lectures on the subject of gratitude. He had a TED Talk that went viral and has been seen millions and millions of times. But what I want to share with you today is one of his writings that I found on his website about a prayer rug. He stays in a monastery in upstate New York. And it's largely, they survive based on tithing and donations, and they are lucky enough to have a lot of really wealthy patrons. And one of those patrons donated this hand-woven Persian prayer rug. And so he writes about this little experience that he had kneeling to pray in the chapel on this rug. He says, there are often 6,000 knots per square inch in a fine rug of this kind. Let that sink in for a second. 6,000 knots per square inch. With this in mind, I am overcome by awe. Whenever I step on it, I envision those fingers tying knot after knot, thousands a day. I see fingers twisting fibers into threads, the purple, red fingers of those who dyed the threads, fine fingers tracing intricate designs. Behind those hands, I see the hands of their teachers in their various crafts, and their teachers' teachers' hands, generation after generation. The countless hands in my imagination that stand for the patience, the pride, the dedication of this vast multitude whose labor has prepared this precious spot for me to step on. Reverently, I put my foot down. And my foot, in turn, represents all those without whom I would not be here. My ancestors alone add up to more than 1 billion. And if I go back 1,000 years, and humans who look like you and me go back 200 times as long, and their lives form a tapestry, incomparably more intricate than that of the carpet, and the lives of those whom the carpet represents, each one is equally vast and intricate. Life that brought me to this moment meets life that comes towards me as my foot touches the rug. And isn't something similar happening at every moment? At every moment, I am the point where all of life meets all of life. And whenever I recognize this, a spark jumps, a spark of joy and praise. This joy, this praise, is gratefulness, is thanksgiving. So, what I'm offering today is an invitation to this state of consciousness, a transformed outlook on life, a profound experience of wholeness and interconnectedness. We are the place where all of life meets all of life. And it's true every moment, whether we're aware of it or not. Now, Thanksgiving meal is the perfect time to enter into this state of consciousness. And are there any gardeners in this room? Anyone here? Like to garden, grow your own vegetables? I know firsthand how much time, how much patience, how much love, how much work and sweat goes into tilling the earth and pulling up weeds and mulching and watering and pruning and nurturing and all that stuff just to get your vegetables. If you're lucky, if some pest doesn't come along and eat it first. I also know that all my work would be for nothing if it weren't for the bees, for the wasps, the pollinators, for the nematodes and the little creepy crawlies in the soil who are constantly churning and aerating. If it weren't for the sunshine, for the rain. I think about the Goldilocks zone. You familiar with that term? It is the minuscule, the incomparable rarity of a planet precisely this mass and size, precisely this distance from the sun, with precisely this chemical composition, with the oxygen and the water and everything it takes to support life. Also, we have Jupiter and Saturn, these two massive planets farther out in the solar system, and their gravity acts as magnets for the meteors, for the comets that are constantly zipping through the solar system. And if it weren't for those planets, we would have extinction level events so often that life could have never developed on Earth. So I think about this, how precious it is that all of these variables aligned just so that we can have this planet and all of its abundance. I think about the farmers and the field hands who grew and harvested the food that we're about to eat, the ranchers. I think about warehouse workers and truck drivers and all that they did just to get it here to the supermarket in town. I think about stockers and cashiers there at the supermarket and the hours that they put in every week. And of course, I think about the loving hands of all you talented chefs in your kitchen and the love and the work that I know you put into preparing this food. I also think about the trillions of tiny workers inside each one of us, our cells. And what a wonder it is that I can smell and taste this food, that my body can break it down and make life energy out of it. That we are alive and conscious here and now is a miracle that we don't even really begin to understand. Let us not take it for granted. Let us tune into that vibration of gratitude, gratefulness, praise, thanksgiving. I wanted to share some practical steps with you before I wrap up the talk, because it's no good to sit here and listen for 20 minutes if you can't have something to take away with you, right? So there are 5 steps that I think can help us tune in to gratitude. Very, very simple steps. And I had a chance recently to put this into practice myself. I was at work, and it's very easy when you're at work to just, go on autopilot. You're just doing what needs to be done. You're not very mindful of your state of consciousness. And I was definitely on autopilot there at work. And we had I won't go too much into it, but we had a new truck line that was bringing us some product up from Mexico, and they didn't have the right paperwork, and everything was a mess. It was impossible for me to receive this stuff in and check it in and do my job. So I was getting very stressed. I got myself all worked up. So on my break time, I just went outside in the parking lot. And I sat down cross-legged on the curb. I can only imagine how that looked to my blue-collar warehouse coworkers. But I just sat to just breathe and just empty myself of the story I was telling, the expectations that I had, this whole drama that was going on in my head. I just relaxed and just breathed and just released all that anxiety and stress I was carrying around in my body. And I felt my heart open. I felt gratitude for my job, for the beautiful fall weather that we were having that day, for my livelihood, for the earth that sustains me and supports me in so many ways. I just felt this tremendous surge of new energy come into my body. I could feel it physically. You remember those physical benefits we talked about at the beginning of the talk. It's a real palpable energy. I felt it flow into me. And I just sat and kind of soaked that up for a few minutes before I stood up and went back to work. And I was just a new person after that. It just took maybe 10 minutes. And I was able to go back to work filled with new energy, with a new state of mind, so much more calm and focused and able to do what needed to be done. And that experience, from that experience, I've drawn these 5 steps. First one is just stop. Stop what you're doing. Just pause. And if possible, go somewhere where you can be by yourself, just for a few minutes. Step 2, relax. Take a deep breath. And another. And another. Bring your awareness into your body and feel those tense places. Where are you carrying that anxiety? Just relax and let that go. Every breath. Just release a little bit more of that tension and that energy. Number 3 is release. Release the story that you're telling yourself about whatever the situation is. Empty your mind of expectations. Empty your mind of all your anger and frustration and anxiety. Just relax and let that stuff flow through. The mind, the thoughts, they just flow by like a river if you let them. If you just let go and let them drift. Number 4 is look. With new eyes, look at your life in this moment. And look for the opportunities that are in front of you. Look for the work that is yours to do. Look for all that you have to be grateful for. Look for what this moment is asking of you. You know what I mean by that? And number 5 is go do it. Whatever opportunity is there, whatever work is yours to do, engage. Don't resist. Just dive in and give yourself to this moment and give the world what it is calling for at this moment. There's always something if you look. So those are my 5 steps. Those note takers out there, I see. Stop, relax, release, look, and go. Will you join me in meditation? We'll walk through this process together. As the lights dim and the energy quiets down, relax and breathe and just feel how supported you are right now. That the chair that you're sitting in and the floor that it rests upon are just effortlessly supporting you. There's no effort required. Feel how supported you are by this community. How many wonderful, open-hearted people are gathered here to break bread together today. What a delicious vibration of love and fellowship we have created together. So just relax and release any tension that you feel. And let yourself tune into that vibration of love, community, gratefulness. The air is full of savory smells. A wonderful meal awaits us, along with fellowship, laughter. And that is enough to fill my heart with gratitude right now. Can you feel it? Let's take that feeling into the silence for a few minutes. Step 5 is particularly easy for us today because as I look for the opportunity before me and the work that's mine to do, it is to partake of this wonderful feast and this wonderful community and fellowship. So as you prepare to open your eyes and come back to this room, remember that you are the place where all of life meets all of life. Tremendous, intricate tapestry lies behind every one of us and behind everyone we meet and every morsel of food that we're about to partake of. And it is in that consciousness, from that place of gratitude, that I say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Now, excuse me if I might. When he told a story about his truck, that little bitty crack reminded me of a thought of wisdom I heard some time ago. If you don't like the way things look, change the way you look at things.
I couldn't have said it any better. It could have been the whole talk.
I think your Uncle Mike was onto something when that prayer of gratitude went on and on.
I believe, yes.
Because, you know, the tapestry is so full and so expansive. And, you know, it's real easy to think of our gratitude as simply our ego saying, thanks, I got what I wanted. But it's so much more than that. It's actually very humbling to see this tapestry that supports us all in our lives. And to have the kind of consciousness that just feels the joy of existence within that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, the song that a lot of the Unity women have done at the retreats was weave us together in gratitude and love. Is that how it went? And that was kind of many of the women here. Did you hear that one?
I have heard that, so I know that. So why didn't I explanation
Well,
that one today?
You'll save it for another time.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me of that one, though. I like that too.
And now it is time for us to take our offering, and baskets are going to be passed, and we thank you for your gifts. Join me, please, in reading our offertory prayer that is in the bulletin. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am joy-filled and grateful.
I am so grateful that I woke up this morning to witness once again the rising sun. I am so grateful that I have eyes to see and two good working feet to stand upon. And I want to thank you for one more day, for shining your light on me, to show me the way. I want to thank you for your love and for the grace that gets me by, for every precious moment of my life. I'm so grateful for my mother and my family, generations come before me, how long ago. And I'm so grateful for my only son and the part of me that he will carry on. And I want to thank you for all that I have and the people that have made me who I am. I want to thank you for your love and for the grace that gets me by, for every precious moment of my life. I'm so grateful. For the highs and for the lows, for the ebb and for the flow, for all the peaks and valleys I have known. I want to thank you for all that I have and the journey that has made me who I am. I want to thank you for your love and for the grace that gets me by, for every precious moment of my life. I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Lord. Thank you, sweet, sweet Spirit. I'm so grateful.
And now it is time for us to share with one another our concerns. Do we have anyone with concerns they'd like to share today? Yep.
I don't have a concern, but I want to give a shout out to 3 people today, Aubrey and Jordan and Kim.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for them.
Aw, we love you too, Barb.
Aubrey?
I'm grateful for 3 people too. Well, 4 people, 5 people. Barb,
Fine.
my brother, Kim, Raymond, and my grandma.
Raymond, because she counts the money.
Any other voices of gratitude would like to be expressed?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, I'm John Greenleaf Maple. This is my wife, Maka. And about 2.5 years ago, our daughter, who lives in New Hampshire and who has 2 of our grandchildren, was diagnosed with stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer. That by the time they discovered it, and that's kind of a characteristic of this type of cancer, it's very rapid. Had already metastasized to her lymph glands, her left humerus, and to her liver, which was very problematical. We went through a lot of very close calls with her. She went into septic shock about 2 weeks after starting chemo and had to be choppered down to a trauma center for 3 weeks, where they put 35 extra pounds on her just pumping fluids, and that was very scary. There was another time she got down to 88 pounds, just was not able to eat. Anyway, she was so fortunate in being able to switch to an immunotherapy. But even more importantly, she changed her attitude toward her illness. And what was so amazing is that within 6 weeks of her saying, you know, I'm really exploring this more in depth, and she had been all along, but I could just tell that her energy had shifted, and her last CT scan showed no evidence of cancer in the liver whatsoever.
Wow.
And we fully expect her to recover.
That's wonderful.
What's her name?
Beth.
Beth?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't know if you recognize the Greenleaf Maples, but they attended the plaza, and I know them from Unite when it was at 4 o'clock. And
Yeah. And we're still very active there. I'm actually on a ministerial track with Unity, and Mark is on a licensed Unity teacher track. So we just enjoy the things we learn and the opportunity to give something back for all that we've been given. So it's great to be here.
Thanks for
Welcome.
welcoming us today. Ben is our friend, and that's what brought us here this morning, but y'all have just made us feel so welcome. Thank you for your warmth and your everything.
So glad you're here. Thank you. Yes?
well, you know, the beautiful grandchild, the Prince of Peace, has arrived.
Yes, so beautiful.
But she, the mother, who has had kidney stones all through this pregnancy, as well as everything else, has surgery tomorrow and Tuesday,
Oh my
and
goodness.
has to go back into the hospital. So just send a quick little prayer for her. I know it'll go very well, and she'll be certainly happy as these things move on.
And we think of Jackson as the Prince of Peace because he sleeps all the time.
Her name is
I
Stephanie.
have not yet seen his
Stephanie.
eyes.
But he's so
Jackson is the
beautiful.
Looks just like Doug.
Any other
He
concerns?
does look like Doug.
I will once again ask for some prayers for my parents, Elmer and Ethel Whitey. They're both in their 90s, both in wheelchairs, and the last 3 weeks or so they both had incidences of falling down, and I'm the one who got to pick them up. So yeah, a few prayers in that regard would be helpful.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any others? Yes?
So let's just be grateful for all the caregivers. People are helping each other, giving immense care and love in many, many ways. And his parents, it's a prime example of how he sacrifices a lot of his life to care for somebody else.
We certainly have a lot to be grateful for. And we'll keep those concerns in our prayers this week. If you would please join me and read the prayer for community concern. Centering our hearts and minds in prayer, we let go of any thoughts of worry or challenge and simply rest in the stillness. We know that our source of strength and peace comes from God alone. We give thanks for divine order and trust that we are all held in the power of grace. Ben?
So, those of you who grew up in a more traditional Christian church-going family might recognize the inspiration for this song, but I took an old hymn and just kind of turned it into a fun little interfaith thing. It's called How Sweet the Name. How sweet the name of Jesus to a believer's ears. It can soothe away his sorrows, cast out all his fears. How sweet the name of Jesus when you sing it out in praise. It can lighten all your burdens, brighten all call it out in prayer at least 5 times a day. How sweet the name of our Lord. To those who've had a taste of His love and forgiveness, His boundless mercy and grace, how sweet the name. How sweet the name. How sweet the name of Krishna to all His devotees, a refuge from a world of pain, a place of perfect peace. How sweet the name of Krishna on a lover's lips, a gateway from samsara into never-ending bliss. How sweet the name. How sweet the name. How sweet the name of God. Whichever one you choose, it can heal the broken heart, chase away the blues. How sweet the name of God. It lives inside your heart like a cosmic symphony that we all play a part. How sweet the name. How sweet the name. How sweet the name.
I couldn't find the author of this, even though I looked it up on the internet. But there's gentleman of peace who said, if all you say as a prayer is thank you, you have said enough. So thank you. And so it is. Amen.
Amen.
Short but powerful.